True. So Bethany only works a 4-day week, so I thought she was done yesterday, but they had a personal development day. So she's in Bennett until after graduation tonight, which is 7 p.m. So she's not thrilled about that. But as a result, I have a little bit of free time before the Tylenol PM kicks in. I really have been listening to this album like a lot the last couple days. It's very difficult to rap along to because there's so much Gaelic. But I think the Gaelic is really cool, so it's not an issue. Maybe I'll learn some.
no trust in the cops and the boys in black at the shops with the packed up bones and the feeling red rocks.
This is a crazy thumbnail. The sad face next to It's Cancer. Yeah, I was looking at the album. I like that. I like that bird that you sent. Well, I'm not. I don't want to be that mean to Trent. I don't think that he was necessarily trying to. I mean, that's direct, right? It's not clickbait. That's not clickbait. That is just true. His wife has cancer. He's telling you what the medical diagnosis is. Like, I'm not mad at him because he's not cheating. It's just a strange thumbnail. It's like, that's kind of. But I feel terrible for him, you know. It's awfully sad. Yesterday I was watching one of his videos and he was talking about James, and in James, it does say that the prayer of a righteous man availeth much and will heal you. And, it'd be nice if that was a promise that we could rely on. It's James 5, I think. Yeah. Is anyone sick? Let them call the elders of the church and anoint them with oil. And the prayer offered in faith will make the sick person well. The Lord will raise them up. That's, that feels like it's a temporal promise, doesn't it? I understand, like, the Lord may raise you up into heaven, right? But that doesn't feel like the intended reading of that verse. Oh, yeah. No, the thumbnail is the key. I think maybe we'll watch the one about the church father. I don't know what church father I'm supposed to fear the most. Considering they're all dead, I'm not that concerned. Sound of Freedom bullshit, which I don't want to watch. Protestantism's most misused Bible verse. Him talking about Professor Jordan Kermit Peterson. Anti-Christian comedians. Louis C.K. Yeah, and also microplastics. Yeah, C.K. Louis, the comedian. I mean, look, Christianity is so much an aesthetic these days. It really bothers me, right? Because obviously I have my own thoughts on the trueness of Christianity, but I'm all for people really sincerely, like, reading the Bible and, living that life. But you have seen the, like, empathy is bad and all the anti-woke preaching. Like, how are you going to talk about how what you need to do is like hate people and also say that you just don't like the verses where Jesus says what the fruits of the Spirit are? Or Paul, maybe, I don't remember where that is, 1 Corinthians. But the Beatitudes, you don't like the Beatitudes? You don't want to talk about love your neighbor, and who's my neighbor? Even my most hated political rival or my most hated minority group. You know, that Jesus, I've said it before, I'm sure I'll say it again. The Bible is not as woke as as you'd like it to be when you are a progressive Christian, right? There's stuff in there that is very difficult to work around. You can talk about Romans 1 and how it doesn't really condemn homosexuality because there is no such thing as homosexuality, right? The orientation wasn't a thing. But it's condemning the act, not the orientation, right? And so what that says is if you want to stay consistent, it's okay to be gay, but you have to be celibate in your homosexuality, which is what I grew up with, right? That's the interpretation. And I reject that personally. But like, that's the thing. The Bible in many ways is very progressive. And there is stuff in there that's, if people actually read it and followed it, our society would look a lot better. Stuff about taking care of widows and orphans and treating foreigners well, and, you know, lots of things that are positive. But people don't want to be Christians. They want to have the aesthetic of Christianity and the like. It is literally virtue signaling. It is virtue signaling, right? It is telling a specific audience of people, don't listen to what anybody says about me because I'm a Christian. And I Russell Brand, I will have a tearful apology or not an apology, but I'll have a tearful, like, vague. My dad grew up Catholic, actually, but he didn't go to church most of his teenage years. And then he ended up at an all-black church in Las Vegas. And he said something that they would do a lot at the end of services is they would say, you know, if anybody needs to confess, this is the time to confess, because it says you're supposed to confess your sins to one another, right? And what would happen is people would stand up and say, you know, I need to confess that I've been struggling with some things. I've been going through some things in my life. No specifics, no details. Not that I want necessarily people to, like, lay out their personal sins in front of a huge crowd. But confessing that you are sinning or having sinful thoughts is hardly helpful, right? Because everybody does all the time. Everybody knows it. It's not so much about saying that you are going through non-specific issues. What it is about is if you can name it, if you can quantify it, then you can be held accountable for it and you can start to address it, right? This is a therapy thing. And it's not bad. Like, I am not opposed to that. I'm all for accountability groups and partners and stuff. I think that's a fine thing in the church. If you really think porn is bad and you don't want to look at porn, but you need somebody to help you, like, stay honest, I respect that. I think that's a fine thing. Obviously, we had friends in college who were doing that, and some of them are still doing it. And my dad was doing it when I was a kid, right? He had his men's group at church that got together and talked about the stuff that you don't talk about in church. And I'm all for that. But that's not what people do. That's not what Russell Brand is doing when he says, you know, guys, I'm a sinner, and I'm just so grateful of the love God has for me, and the Bible is so important, and buy my Patreon. And also, there are going to be some horrible things that are said about me. Don't listen to them, because I'm a man of God now. And because I'm a man of God now, I should have no accountability for any of my past actions. which, of course, I couldn't have even done because I'm such a Christian man. That's the crazy thing, right? It is so much a get out of jail free card for people, because now you have a big crowd of 2 online evangelical weirdos, or, you know, I don't know. I don't know what his audience is, but he's trying to court right-wing Christian conservatives, right? And they will just never believe that he did the shit that he did. They just won't believe it. It can be proven in court, and they won't believe it. And they won't care, right? Because either they'll say, he did some bad stuff back when he was a heroin user, which, fucking fair. Yes, I 100% agree. He did some bad stuff in his past. We can all agree on that. He should face consequences for at least some of those bad things. I don't really care about the drug use. I mean, he survived it, and that's good. But I don't think you need to throw him in jail for being a heroin user when he was 28. But the violence against women, the crimes against women, you got to punish him for that. You don't get out of that just by, you know, you're a parent, right? I don't know how old your children are, if they're old enough to apologize for things. But I learned pretty early on that saying you're sorry is a good thing to do, and it's important. But it doesn't get you out of the consequences of your actions. If you did something that is against the rules, you should apologize, and you should feel sorry for doing it. You should feel sorry that you did the thing. But you should not do it in order to get out of the consequences. And that is what being a public Christian allows you to do now. Right? There are no more consequences. You just say that you're a Christian, and a large enough and loud enough group of people will take that seriously, because, hey, we don't know what's in his heart, you know? And Russell Brand is a professional goddamn actor and talker. He's good at talking. He can sound convincing. And that stripper really likes you. That stripper really... Listen, if she didn't have a double shift, she'd probably go home with you because you are so charming. It has nothing to do with the money. For other people, morons, dimwits, you know, the ugly of the world, it is about the money, but not for you. For you, it's special. Like, it's the same shit, and it's just people enjoy being lied to. People enjoy thinking that a celebrity that they like secretly like, or they think is really funny, or they think is a really great example of how the Lord can change you. You know, they get really excited when people like this convert. And I say convert with, you know, strong suspicion of the authenticity or commitment of these conversions. But, you know, this is the world we live in. It is just infuriating. Okay, well, let's see what we can... I want to find something shorter. I do like the Ned Flanders. That's pretty good. He does look like Ned Flanders, a character I only know of sort of vaguely. The Simpsons was a show that we did not watch in our house, so I've really never seen it. Oh, Charlie Kirk. One thing he missed, neck protection. Is it sinful to watch MMA? Let's do that one, because I do not give a shit about MMA. I'm gonna say you could probably make a pretty good case that it's sinful, but it's not that much different than boxing. And Paul talks about training as an athlete, beating your body into submission. So I think you can argue both sides of it. I personally don't care about MMA. I find it like I did Taekwondo when I was growing up. I got all the way through receiving my black belt. So like I did it seriously for I don't know 6 or 7 years probably. And I was pretty decent. But Taekwondo is hands and feet, full contact, and some grappling, right? We did self-defense moves that were based on getting out of holds, throws, things like that. It was pretty comprehensive as far as like martial arts education goes. And we started it out here, actually. So I like Taekwondo. I like kickboxing. What I don't like is how much ground grappling there is in MMA. Because you will just get somebody into a hold and it will just stay there like that forever. You know, for like the whole round, you're just two guys on the floor, barely moving. And I find that really not very interesting to watch. I appreciate it's technically impressive for two guys to be so strong and so physically, capable of holding up to that sort of strain. But man, it's just boring to watch people turtle. I prefer kickboxing because that's hands and feet, full contact, and you just go. No grappling.
If Christians are called peacemakers, then...
Also, I knew several guys at Harding who were getting into MMA. God. Always the biggest assholes.
Is it okay for them to watch people punch each other in the head or choke another person into a submission? That's the issue that's raised when people say Christians should not support mixed martial arts or MMA.
Ooh.
But other people say there's nothing wrong with it, and in fact, Christians should be more involved in athletic combat sports.
That's an interest. I'm all good with saying that it's fine. I don't know why you would say Christians need to be more involved. Just as a to be a witness for Christ, like that racist kid from Harding that is in the MMA or UFC, Cody something.
This episode, I'm going to give my thoughts on the matter, but I will talk about one circumstance where Christians definitely should not watch MMA. There's a particular circumstance where that would be wrong, but there's other circumstances where it would be right. Before I get to that, though, we'll need a little bit of background. So, what is mixed martial arts, or MMA? The term mixed martial arts comes from a review of the first Ultimate Fighting Championship, hosted in 1993. It pioneered matches where fighters could use different styles to engage one another, and in the early years, you had some pretty wild matchups. Like, what happens if a sumo wrestler fights a kickboxer? The answer is the sumo wrestler goes down pretty fast. Or what happens when a little guy named Royce Gracie fights the same kickboxer using a style we call Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? The answer is that Gracie closes the distance so that the kickboxer's kicks can't hurt him and focuses on grappling to use a chokehold to force him into a submission.
And thrilling to watch. I mean, again, it's an interesting idea, and I think it is cool to showcase different martial arts, but you really should not do style versus other style. Like, they did Muhammad Ali versus a pro wrestler, like a real wrestler. And it was a terrible match, and everybody agreed it was boring as fuck. And then they stopped doing that. Now, Physical 100, if you have Netflix, if you haven't watched Physical 100 already, you're crazy. But Physical 100 and Physical Asia, both. There are 3 total seasons. Just fantastic. Bethany is not a combat sports, bodybuilding, or wrestling fan particularly, but she was into this show. It is super fun. So Physical 100, Physical Asia, you will have a hard time not, well, you are a parent. If you had free time, you would have a hard time not watching 5 or 6 episodes in a row. And just because they're so fucking good at leaving you hanging. It's Korean TV. They're doing cliffhangers pretty well. Anyway, that's a great show. And I'll talk about MMA.
Now, 30 years later, MMA has evolved so that most fighters learn a mixture of kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and wrestling in order to maximize their effectiveness in the ring, or the octagon. I've trained in Muay Thai kickboxing until I tore my ACL a year ago, and I hope to get...
He could have gone pro, man. That's why we're making this video. Because Trent's like, yeah, I'm into it. I watch MMA, so it needs to be okay.
Back into it, but I've been doing jiu-jitsu on and off during that time while I'm healing. I'm not very good. I'm literally one rung above a training dummy, but it's fun. I enjoy it, even when I get hurt. Now, jiu-jitsu isn't as violent as MMA because you're not allowed to punch or kick the other person. And there can be some brutal injuries in mixed martial arts. I'll admit, some of the matches are hard to watch. But is it wrong for Christians to watch MMA or even participate in it? I was especially interested in these 2 videos from Father Mike Schmitz, who summarizes his essential objection to MMA. Before I share that, though, I need to add a Father Mike is awesome disclaimer here.
Oh, good.
He's done a tremendous amount of good for the church. My son and I love listening to Bible in a Year with him. So this video represents a minor disagreement I have with him. Because as I've said, overall, Father Mike is awesome. I love the work that he does. So with that being
got his Diet Mountain Dew on stage. He's a cool priest.
Here's his objection to watching MMA as a form of entertainment.
There is nothing that is noble about dominating someone or beating another human being into submission for someone else's entertainment.
Now, I agree with Father Mike when it comes to doing this to innocent people. It's wrong to watch videos of random attacks against innocent people you might find on the internet because you enjoy watching people get attacked and you get a thrill out of it.
Trent's all about consent.
These are crimes of assault and battery that do take away a person's dignity. So people shouldn't be watching them for thrills. But what about when 2 people agree to a fight with fair rules? When I engage in jiu-jitsu or roll with someone, we aren't beating each other with our hands and fists. But one of us may be dominating the other person. In this case, my coach, who is a black belt, is absolutely dominating me.
Beating my ass.
While there is pain and discomfort, I haven't lost my dignity, even if it's a little embarrassing sometimes. That's because every time someone better than me dominates me and has good sportsmanship and is willing to teach...
Like, I think Trent's kind of working to this point, or this is a sidecar to this point. But like, you don't have to get paid to enjoy doing this stuff. It doesn't have to be for somebody else's enjoyment. Fight Club is a movie for a reason, right? There is something in the testosterone of let me test myself, let me prove myself against somebody else. And if I lose, then I am not as strong as I want to be or as I think I am. But if I win, then I'm as strong as I think I am. And I can prove that to myself. People have different levels of like bad motives or bad winning. But it is healthy competition to test yourself against somebody else. So if his issue is Charlie bit my finger, that's a reference that's 20 years old at this point. I think literally. Charlie doesn't want to have to watch MMA. But the only difference between MMA and any other sport, basketball, football, baseball, is the style in which you are competing. Right? Other than that, it's just 2 people competing against each other to see who can win. Skiing. Is skiing Christianly wrong? Because it's competition and it's for other... Like... if you're what do they call them, like a tomato can, if you're a jobber in like local boxing and your job is to just go out there and get beat for 3 rounds, maybe then we can talk about the ethics of that, because some people just want to go fight and they're happy to take the money, win or lose. But we could talk about capitalism and the incentive to sacrifice your body to make money when you don't have other options or you don't have enough of it. We could talk about fixing that and say, if you remove the need for this guy to go get beat up once a week, then he wouldn't have to. And then he would be making that decision with his own free will and with his own consent. Anyway, we're not going to get into that. I feel confident.
Teach me what I can do better. I learn more. This is how I learn to not be dominated.
It is funny that he is
Or
just
not
dunking
be
on
dominated
Trent.
If someone tries to attack me out of nowhere on the street. Now you might say it's okay to be educated by this, like
Who's going to attack Trent out of nowhere on the street?
me, but it's wrong to be entertained by watching someone else be dominated. But I don't feel that way. If someone watching this gets to see what jiu-jitsu is like, how good black belts are, and how every black belt started as a white belt, I think that's great. I haven't been dehumanized. I find it very dignifying to learn from my other coaches, both in class.
I find it dignifying to be groin to groin with another man.
And when I watch them compete in competitions where they dominate someone else. Like here where my coach gets a sweet flying armbar on his opponent. It's fun to watch, and even his opponent would say this is good for human dignity, not opposed to it. I think what most people are squeamish about with MMA are the strikes and kicks more than the grappling. Even though
I mean, the blood also.
grappling and throwing, like what you might have.
I don't know, like boxing is something that I have ethical issues with. And football also. Because there is such a high incidence of long-term head trauma, brain trauma, which not only affects your life, but it can also affect the lives of your family or random strangers. So, like, is it ethical to allow people to do that, to make that, to remain legal? I don't know. Because the flip side is, it is a really easy way, if you're good, to go from having absolutely nothing to having money. That really does happen. Maybe less now as it's harder to get into UFC and MMA. But professional athletics, all you got to be is a kid who is willing to work hard and has some natural talent. And you could go from having no money to setting your family up for a couple generations at least. And football is one way people have been able to do that. But it is a violent and dangerous sport that causes long-term trauma. The average life expectancy for an offensive lineman, at least at one point, was like in his 50s. Right? So it shortens your life. It can really reduce your quality of life. And when you're young, you don't know about all of that, right? You can't really make an informed decision because you can't understand what those consequences are. I'm fortunate that the sport that I stayed with was basketball. And I am, like, my body is fucked up. Like, my body is quite fucked up from the way I treated it while I was in high school and college and after college. But at least I wasn't taking shots to the head regularly. I don't know. So I don't know if it should be legal even. I don't know if I feel like I can be comfortable with that. But I really don't watch much football anymore. And there's only one boxer that I watch. Naoya Inoue. He's unbelievable. Also, did you know that Taylor Lautner did Taekwondo and was extremely good at it? 2003 Bluegrass Nationals. I saw this on Cheap Seats, which was a comedy TV show hosted by the Sklar twins.
And our final competitor this evening in this division, Taylor Lautner.
But he is not famous. Also, this is not the original audio. Even then, he had T-Rex arms. Absolutely not making fun of him. He is very, very good at Taekwondo. It's really impressive. I took classes from people who were this good, but I did not ever get to this level. We also didn't focus mostly on weapons. So that wasn't a big part of our classes. Imagine if you could play with him in like Mortal Kombat. So, yeah, Taylor Lautner. He's pretty good at Taekwondo. He had blue hair at one point. I guess he's still doing it. I think there is. Let me look on Steam. I'm not a big fan of Irish Goodbye off this album. You know, it's fine, but okay, Shark Boy. Nope. Looks like no. Nothing official. Yeah, I think Fire Boy and Water Girl was probably based on Shark Boy and Lava Girl. But I never played it. I did not ever play cool math games. Now we gotta go back to this stupid thing. That's a good song. I really like that song.
In judo causes injuries too. But more importantly, other sports have the same, if not more, risk of injury. MMA fighters wear light gloves, while boxers wear heavier gloves. And the heavier gloves allow them to have more head strikes against the hard skulls of their opponents. And football players with helmets are at even more risk of head injury.
Ooh.
Father Mike also says this.
I think about this story, St. Augustine.
Got in.
His book, Confessions. He had a friend. St. Augustine's problem was lust, right? One of his problems was lust. he had a friend whose problem was violence. And this friend, who was a convert to Christ, was obsessed with the gladiator arenas. And at one point, he and some of his non-Christian friends were walking by an arena. And they said, let's come on in, let's go watch. And he was like, I'm not gonna go. They said, no, come on in, you're gonna love it. And he said, fine, I'll go, but I'm not gonna look. He went in, I'm not gonna watch. He went in and he kept his eyes down, like knowing, I know what happens here. I know what they're doing right now. I know, as a Christian, I don't want any part of it. But he said there was...
That's how I watch porn. Listen, I will go, but I won't look.
the moment when the crowd cheered in such a way that he knew what was going on, and he wanted to see it with his own eyes in the arena. And he looked up, and it was in an instant that what Augustine calls the bloodlust returned to him. And he was cheering the victimization, he was cheering the dominance, he was cheering the violence of one human being against another human being just as much as any non-Christian who was there in that arena.
I agree that if you watch MMA because you enjoy seeing other people getting
This is
hurt,
the John Cena
then
looking
you should
priest.
watch MMA because you have bloodlust or lust for violence. This is definitely one circumstance where Christians, or anybody for that matter, shouldn't watch mixed martial arts. But that's a you problem, not an MMA or a martial arts problem. To
True.
give another example, if you look at Renaissance art because you enjoy seeing naked people and it makes you feel aroused and excited, then you shouldn't look at Renaissance art.
Also, you have a weird specific fetish.
But that's a you problem, not a Renaissance art problem. But if you enjoy combat sports because you appreciate the skill on display and the commitment to athleticism, then it can be a healthy thing for Christians to enjoy watching or participating in. In response he made to his original video, Father Mike boiled down his essential objection to watching mixed martial arts.
Human beings have dignity. Violence strips a human being of dignity.
Says who? I mean, that's the thing, right? Says who? Who says violence strips the human being of dignity? Is that a necessary truth? Or is it contingent? Because I would argue that it's contingent.
Violence as entertainment has no place in the life of the Christian.
And my response would be this. Violence itself is neutral towards human dignity. It's not always wrong. I mean, what is violence? Most definitions say something like the use of physical force to cause injury to something. But when a surgeon cuts open a person's chest for open heart surgery, or any...
Yeah, but if the victim has agreed to the terms and is not being extorted, then I've lost basketball. I've got my ass beat a few times. Mostly when I was growing up, the teams I was on were good, and we were the teams that were putting belt to ass. But we got beat by 60 one time, and it sucked. It'll really recontextualize how good you are when that happens. But I knew that there was a possibility I would lose, when I went out there. Oh, yeah, well, yeah. That's fair. Because you have lost, and everybody can point and laugh at you.
amputates a gangrenous limb, that's a violent act. The body suffers injury and needs time to heal afterwards. But the violence is justified. Or when the police wrestle a suspect to the ground who is resisting...
Did I tell you I almost got in an insane fight when I lived in LA? I was at some show. I don't remember who it was. I can't remember. It might come to me, but I was just at some warehouse show. And I was somehow in between two very drunk guys and one guy and his girlfriend. And there was something happening between the people on either side of me. Confrontation. And I, being sober, was trying to kind of intervene and that he's not hitting on your girl, kind of. And the guy who had his girlfriend there with him was trying to get me to go outside with him and opened his coat to show me like a 4-foot bike chain that he just had on him. I did not go have a fight in the parking lot with this random drunk man. But I was pretty shocked that he just was like, look what I've got on me. I guess you gotta come prepared to the club. But yeah, so it's an exciting night.
Rest. They don't harm that person's dignity even though they commit violence. As long
Oh, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself right in the Catholic hole.
as the violence or force they use is not excessive. Raping an evildoer or torturing him would take away his dignity. But proportional violence to subdue him actually respects his dignity because we're keeping him from committing more evil. This also applies to sports, since other
I don't know
contact
about
sports
that.
involve acts where you know you're going to cause the other player pain and possibly injury. Think about when a football player tackles someone on the field. If tackling someone in a fight would
It
be
is
considered
still,
violent,
you know,
so violent, hockey would be another.
it's still
example.
impressive
Fights are
when you
expected.
see
I mean, to me, this just looks like
when you
mixed
see
martial
the,
arts or boxing on ice.
it's the math, right? When one train is headed north at 26 miles an hour and another train is headed south-southwest at 25 miles an hour, where will they intersect? And it is very impressive to see somebody time it up and just a clean shot right to the ribs. And also, you can break ribs that way. And I said ribs because up until 15 years ago, it was to the head. And I used to enjoy watching those hits, and then I learned more about concussions, and now I can't really enjoy them anymore.
So the question isn't, is the act violent? Lots of things are violent that are not immoral. The question is there a proportionate reason to justify the violent act? When it comes to MMA, a few of those reasons might be that it encourages people to learn or value non-lethal means of self-defense and disabling attackers if they're forced into a fight. Or it celebrates human creativity, athleticism, health, and sportsmanship. And here I actually agree with Father Mike with one of the points he was trying to achieve in his original video.
All that last video was trying to do was propose that there is a line, right? Like, so maybe the line goes to boxing. Like, people wrote to me and said more people die boxing than doing MMA. I'm like, okay. More people get like serious brain damage playing professional football than MMA. Like,
True.
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't trying to establish how far the line went. All I was trying to offer was that there is a line somewhere.
I'm trying to offer that it is sinful to watch UFC, even if it's not sinful to watch boxing because you really love watching boxing. Yeah. I think it's, again, to me it all comes down to exploitation. If you are being exploited, then that's wrong. I don't believe you should be in a position where you have to do something. But if it's what you choose to do, sometimes you choose to be a boxer and you have to take fights that you don't really want to take because it's your job is to be a boxer or a UFC fighter. But for the most part, you fight because you want to fight and you think if I win, I can make $600,000, and it's worth it to me to possibly get my shit rocked to make $600,000. So that you can say it's exploitative because the system we live in keeps people in a place of precariousness where the possibility of a big windfall is worth sacrificing your health for. You can argue with that, but that's not really what most people think about when they think about doing MMA. They think, man, I'm pretty tough. I bet if I show how tough I am, I can make money and get women. That's the calculus when you're 19.
He's absolutely correct. There is a line to be drawn where consensual acts of violence between two people cannot be justified. In the 12th century, the Second Lateran Council banned jousting, saying it condemned, quote, those abominable jousts and tournaments in which knights come together by agreement and rashly engage in showing off their physical prowess and daring, and which often result in human deaths and danger to souls. If any of them dies on these occasions, although penance and viaticum are not to be denied him when he requests them, he is to be deprived of a church burial. Quote. During the Middle Ages, several popes and ecumenical councils banned dueling, or fighting to the death. The Council of Trent said, "The detestable custom of dueling, introduced by the contrivance of the devil, that by the bloody death of the body he may accomplish the ruin of the soul."
What was David and Goliath? That feels like a duel to me.
Shall be utterly exterminated from the Christian world. Acts of entertainment where there's a good chance people can be killed are incompatible with human dignity. I'd also say this is true of other engagements where there's an unreasonable risk of serious injury. Things like underground street fights where there are no rules. Even in MMA, there are rules governing what is allowed, and a set of moves that are prohibited because they're too dangerous. I also wouldn't support watching competitions where people simply endured severe pain and injury, like seeing how many nails they can drive through their hands. It's also why I'm not a fan of slap fighting, where contestants just compete to see who can endure harder slaps from the other person. I think this one probably goes over the line into being unacceptable, because now this isn't about celebration of skill in combat, where you can dodge punches as well as receive them. It's just about tolerating injury. So I agree with Father Mike that when we seek out entertainment, we have to make sure...
When I was 15, I think, at church camp one summer, me and my friend Dalton, are you familiar with 6 Inches? We played for like 2 hours. And we agreed that we could switch shoulders. Okay, but we were just drilling each other in the upper arm for... I'm serious, because it started before lunch, and then it carried on after lunch and into like the rec period, and we just did not stop. And the next day, both of our arms were so sore that we could barely lift them. So that was really, really fucking stupid. But we were 15-year-old boys, and hey, girls might be watching to see how tough you are. At that age, you don't really understand. They don't care. The girls are looking at you thinking, those guys are dumb. Not, wow, those guys are studly. Whichever one is the winner, I will Christianly go out with. You know, that, at least it never worked for me. That was never a method that brought me success.
What entertains us never violates the dignity of the people who are involved. But I'd say MMA is on par with the amount of violence and risk one would find in boxing, football, rugby, and other high-intensity sports. So if there are proportional reasons to justify those activities, then they also justify MMA. That doesn't mean everybody has to watch, or that there aren't individual examples where behavior in the octagon is over the line. Just that MMA doesn't seem like a moral hazard we have to worry about, because we have enough of those in the world as it is. Thanks for watching today's episode. If you want more great content, be sure to check out these other...
I will not. All right. Well, I think that is going to do it. I'm actually working overtime this week, so I'm going in again tomorrow. So I need to sleep more than normal on a Friday. And then on Monday, so this is going to be a really fun week. On Monday, we're going to Rocky. It's a pro tip, if you live here or want to sound like a local, it's not Rocky Mountain National Park, it's just Rocky. That's what everybody understands. So we're going to Rocky on Monday, and then her uncle is getting married this week, well, I guess next weekend. So we're going to go up to visit. They're in Meeker. So obviously we're here in Denver. They are getting married in Craig, which is up here. Can I get the satellite? Yeah, there we go. So they're getting married in Craig. But the way to Craig goes directly through Glenwood Springs. And Glenwood Springs is where Hanging Falls is. Are you familiar with Hanging Falls? Or Hanging Lake, I guess? No. It's this place. It's like a 3-mile hike or something, but you have to have a permit to actually do it. But since that's on the way, we're thinking we might stop and do Hanging Lake. So I think that's going to be on Friday. And then the week after that, our wedding anniversary is June 15th. So as a little anniversary trip, we're going to go to Vail for the GoPro Games, which is something that I just randomly saw on like a local Denver publication. But so the GoPro Mountain Games is just like it's like Red Bull sports kind of, slacklining. There's a 5K, there's kayaking, but it's free. So you can participate in the stuff if you pay to enter. But there are going to be like world class, like one of those girls had an Olympic rings tattooed. So they're like world class athletes competing, and the games themselves are free. So we will be staying close to Vail and then hanging out at this some while we're up there. Now, by 3.5, is a pregnancy happening, or that dog is terrible? That's pretty good. Oh, nice. No complications so far. Mom doing all right? I need an Insta360. That's what I need. But I am not going to drop like $800 on a camera right now. So it is what it is. But it sure would be fun to have one. I watched a video from a guy who does a lot of like backpacking and hiking content, and his recommendation is for the Insta360. But I would also be happy with the GoPro. I think they sell these at Costco. But the 4 from them is, what is it? $340. So I could probably find one used for not too much over a couple $100, but a lot is contingent on if I'm able to get into the elevator union this fall. Because that will basically double our income. So if that works out, then I will have a lot more flexibility, even if gas prices continue to rise. But I'm not sure exactly how competitive it is. And they only accept, I think, 400. So it might not be bad. You have to pass a test. So it may be that they just don't even come close to having 400 qualify. I don't know. But it will, yeah, it could. I'm at 21 at UPS right now. After a year, I think it's $1 raise, so I'd be at 22. If I enter the elevator union, yes, I got you. It's an up and down business. So first year apprentice, start at 25. But you can skip up to 2 years of apprentice by testing through them, basically. So I could go from 23 or 25 to either 30 or 32 within a year, which would be a 50% raise from what I'm making now, plus I'd be working full-time hours. So, and this is as of 2020, so I don't know if those have gone up or if this has been renegotiated. But yeah, so like I'd be happy to do that. Still union work, full-time. And it would make things a lot easier. But if that doesn't work out, I will need something else, or to figure out how to work a lot more overtime at UPS. Gas prices here have doubled. I assume that's probably pretty close to true where you are. But we were paying $2.19 to $2.39 mostly before we fucking bombed her on. And now we're at $4.80. You can usually get a little bit cheaper at Costco, but not significant, 10 or 20 cents a gallon at $4.50 is not a huge value save. But it is what it is. Hopefully this October or whatever it is, I will be in a different position than I am now. But we shall see. All right, I'm going to call it. I'm going to eat something and then go to bed. Thanks for hanging out. I will probably stream occasionally throughout the summer. But it's embarrassing to stream while your partner is home. So I largely will not do that.